Okay, Be'ezrat Hashem, Naaseh v'Natzliach. I want to welcome you to our weekly Parsha learning for Beacon Tower Lunch and Learn. Maybe we could call it that now. As we start Parashat Shemini, before we get started, I'd like to give an honorable mention to our sponsors, H&M Builders and the Dornbush family, to Mendel Law and Judah Mendel, and for Be'ezrat Hashem, that Hashem give you a lot of atzlacha and bracha in all that you do, and you have continued success in your personal life, in your business life. And also want to give an honorable mention to our food sponsor, Hummus Factory, who gives us be'emet every single week, beautiful spread, delicious food. Be'ezrat Hashem, that they have continued success in that business in all their locations. This week's parasha is Parashat Shemini. So right now we're basically in the beginning parashiyot of Sefer Vayikra. What's Sefer Vayikra? It's Torat Kohanim. They call it the book of the Kohanim. That all the laws, if you're a Kohen, had to bring an offering. What's the clothes are you going to wear? What are the things that you need to do? Are all in this particular book. And it talks mostly about now in the first few parashiyot about the Mishkan. It talks about the Korbanot. Parashat Shemini, though, is very well known for the first pasuk, because the first pasuk is Vayi bayom Shemini kara Moshe la'Aaron v'anav v'ziknei Yisrael. What is this 8th day? So if you remember, Moshe Rabbeinu for 7 days, Shiva yemei miluim, 7 days he was putting the Mishkan together and taking it apart. Hashem was teaching him how to put it together, which korbanot, how to do it, almost like a tutorial. And then on the 8th day, when it was all done, is actually the 1st of Nisan. The Yom HaShemini is actually Aleph Ben Nisan. And this was supposed to be the grand opening of the Mishkan. Right. It's supposed to be the inauguration of the Mishkan. And in this week's parasha, it speaks of the actual inauguration of the Mishkan, the special sacrifices of that day, and of the famous death of Nadav and Avihu. That they brought a strange fire in front of a Kadosh Baruch Hu. We did many classes on that. I actually want to concentrate on the 6th aliyah of this parasha, which speaks of kosher animals. Now, first question you can ask is, why would we speak of kosher animals in the same parasha of the inauguration of the Mishkan? What is the connection of giving me a list of animals of what's allowed to be eaten and what's not in the same parasha that talks about the Mishkan? So, a very basic answer that we should know already, just like the Mishkan brings a person closer to Kadosh Baruch Hu, by the way that bringing a korban, when you bring a sacrifice, we said, what's the connection? A person comes, does teshuvah, he prays, he brings the offering, and little by little he gets closer and closer. The word korban comes from the word kiruv. So the same way that the Mishkan brings a person closer to Hashem, so does kosher food. Kosher food brings a person closer to Hashem. Again, when a person sins, there's a perud. What's a perud? Hashem starts to move away from him. When a person starts to make teshuvah, there's a kiruv. When he starts to bring a korban, he gets closer. So that's the process. That's the law of nature. The minute you start to sin, Hashem goes away from you. The minute you start to do teshuvah, prayer, and mitzvot, Hashem becomes closer to you. Now, when a person eats non-kosher food, happens a perud. Hashem starts to move away from that person. When a person starts to eat kosher, there's a kiruv. Just like a korban. Just like when a person sins. So if that's the case, how's that so? What's the connection between kosher food and spirituality? What's the connection between ruchaniyut? It's such a lofty thing, such a high thing. It's things of the neshama. What's the connection of that and the food that is connected to the body? Okay. In order to get the right answer for this question, we have to go back all the way to the beginning. To Bereshit. And you have to understand that The entire world was created to serve man. Everything that you see around us, the ground, the trees, the fish, the birds, the animals, the concrete, the glass, the skies, the planets, everything was created to serve man. We're the highest being on this planet. Everything here is to serve us. We're not here to serve anything except Hashem. But everything beneath us is to serve us, to help us, to aid us while we're on this journey on this planet. Okay? We're at the top of the food chain. Now, in the beginning, right from the beginning, Adam HaRishon sinned. What was his sin? He ate from the tree of good and bad. The one thing that he wasn't supposed to do, he did. The one tree he wasn't supposed to eat from, he ate. And since he ate from that tree, we became involved in the process of a tikkun. What's the tikkun? Whatever Adam HaRishon ruined, we are here to fix. And since he ruined with food, we have to fix with food. Now at the time, you should understand, the time of Bereshit, in the time of Genesis, nothing was wrong. Everything was perfect. Adam HaRishon was perfect, the animals were perfect, the trees were perfect, everything was perfect. Nothing needed a tikkun. You took off the plastic, it's the first time out. HaKadosh Baruch Hu just created them. There was nothing wrong with anything. Everything was perfect. But when Adam HaRishon sinned, the human race or the humans started to need a tikkun. Now, from the time that Adam HaRishon started to sinned with Etz Hadat, nobody was involved with his tikkun till Avraham Avinu. So we have a big pocket of time that nobody's trying to fix that sin. So what happened during that time? So we see that we had a lot of different generations. We had the generation that started to worship idols. Then we had the generation of the Mabul. Then we had the generation of Sodom and Amorah. All these different generations. But in between that time of Adam HaRishon to Avraham Avinu, the first time that we had a very big change in our reality was in the time of Noach, in the time of Dor HaMabul. What happened? Dor HaMabul was such a wicked generation that Hashem says we need to wipe everybody out and press reset. We have to press restart with one family, with Noach. And as soon as they came out of the boat, what did Hashem do? In Perik Tet, Pasuk Bet, it says, "Umorachem v'chitchem yeh al chayat kol haaretz ve'al kol עוף השמיים בכל אשר תרמוס האדמה וכל דגי הים בידכם ניתנו." Hashem permitted us to eat fish, to eat meat, to eat anything that we wanted. Because prior to this, Adam HaRishon was a vegetarian. Adam HaRishon, all he needed was to eat from the fruits and from the vegetables that came from the ground, because they were perfect. But after Dor HaMabul, they acted like animals, and because they acted like animals, we need to do a tikkun, and started to be that souls started to come inside the bodies of animals, and we needed to do tikkun of those animals. So right after the Mabul, Hashem says, you have permission now to eat a chicken, to eat a cow, to fish, not just vegetables. Why? Because it was necessary for the fixing of the world. During the time of Noah, there's two sets of laws, for dietary laws in the world. There's the Noahide laws, which basically prohibits non-Jews of eating ever min hachai. And then there's the Jews that have the Taryag mitzvot, and we have our kosher dietary restrictions. What's the Noahide law? What's ever min hachai? Cannibalism. You are not allowed to eat a live animal. You're not allowed to eat an animal while it's still alive, take its leg and chew on it. Okay? That's something that anybody on this planet is not allowed to do. Why? Inside every living thing, for example, like an animal and a human being, is the blood. And dam is zot hanefesh. The dam hi hanefesh. What's dam hi hanefesh? If you want to know that within your blood, within there, is your spirit, is your soul, or parts of it. So when you're eating it as it's alive, what are you doing? You're taking that person inside of you. You're taking that animal inside of you while it's still alive. So if you're biting off of a lion, and if you could imagine that, what's going inside of you? Or a bear, or a dog. Or let's just say you're eating a very wicked person, cannibalism, they're jumping on him and they're eating him while he's alive. What's going inside of you? As a matter of fact, Rashi says in that particular place, it says, Miyad kol chai, לפי שחטאו דור המבול והפקרו למאכל חיות רעות לשלוט בהן, שנאמר, נמשל כבהמות נדמו, לפעמים צריך להזהיר עליהן את החיות. It says, you know what happened prior to the generation of the flood? They started to eat wicked animals. They started to eat lions, like predators. They started to eat bears. They started to hunt animals and eat them when this was a vegetarian society. And because they ate these evil animals or these vicious animals, they themselves became vicious and animalistic. And everything that they did over there, how they acted with their sexuality, how they acted with one another, how they acted with the world, they became animals in human form. Hashem says, no, we can't have that. Why? Because they used to eat Ever min achayot, they used to eat animals before that. So, Dora Mabul, one of the reasons of it being a failure of a generation is because they ate animals. In this week's parasha, in Perek Yud Aleph Pasuk Bet, says something very interesting. We start seeing not the Noahide side of how they're only they can eat anything that they want except for Ever min achai. You can't eat a live animal, okay, or a live piece from a living animal. For the Jews, we have different dietary restrictions, and over here in this week's parasha, we get to learn it for the first time. So in Perek Yud Aleph Pasuk Bet, it says, "Dabru el bnei Yisrael le'emor, zot hachaya shetochelu mikol habehema asher al haaretz." This is the animal that you're allowed to eat from. In other words, Moshe Rabbeinu is going to now describe to all the Jewish people what is permitted and what is not. Let me teach you a rule. Whenever it says the word zot in the Gemara or in the Chumash, it means that you're pointing to something. Zot HaTorah, zot HaChaya. So it says that Moshe Rabbeinu, as he was showing them all the animals, what's kosher, what's not kosher, he's pointing in it. This lion is not kosher. This cow is kosher. This bear is not kosher. So the question is, they're in the middle of the desert. Where are they getting these animals from? If it says Zot HaTorah, Zot Lashon Hatzba'ah, where are they getting the animals from? So this is very interesting. It says that, this is now the beginning stage of the Jewish people in the desert. They're just starting to get the laws. This is their first year in the desert. It says that Hashem made it that the animals that came to Mitzrayim during Makat Dever, remember? The wild animals that came and they were torturing all the Egyptians. He made them hang around. So like that, when they come over, when Moshe Rabbeinu needs to teach the Jewish people about the animals, they were around, and Hashem made it like a miracle that they come and it says, Zot, this is kosher, this is not kosher, this is kosher, this is not kosher. And it was enough for that generation to visually see it. But for us, they gave the signs. Why? Because generations and generation after that, we need the signs to understand what's kosher and what's not. Now, in our parasha, when it talks about what's permissible to eat and what's not permissible to eat, I'll give you a quick rundown, a summary. For the animals, it's mafris parsa ma'ale gera. You gotta have a split hoof. The animal needs to have a split hoof and needs to chew its cud. For the fish, It needs to have snapir and kaskesid, scales and fins. For the off, for the birds, it has to be basically a bird that's not predatory. Like a chicken, like a duck, like a pigeon. Docile animals. And also we had some permitted and some forbidden insects. At some point, the Jews used to eat insects. There are some kosher insects. For example, my father tells me that when he was a young boy in Morocco, they would go to the shuk and they would have not stir fried, what do you call it? Let's just say fried grasshoppers that were kosher. But nowadays we don't know which type. We don't have the masoret. We don't have the tradition that has been handed out to us. So because we don't know 100% which is, which isn't, we just stay away. But there's most definitely kosher insects and that are allowed, that are permitted, and some that are forbidden. Now,
besides for grasshopper?
Yes, there's some other ones. Now, if you take everything that I just mentioned, the animals, the chaya, the off, the dag, if you notice, they're all very docile creatures. They're not predatory. They're not vicious. Even our fish. It's not a shark. It's not a whale. It's not an alligator. You have cows, sheep, deer, chicken, duck. These are harmless animals, and that is done by design. Why? Because you are what you eat. Remember the generation of the Mabul? See, you are what you eat. They ate that, they became vicious. So us too, you are what you eat. Whatever the nature of the animal that you eat is what you become. Because what happens, whatever you consume becomes a part of you. Whatever you eat goes into the body, and the body does a process. It takes the waste, sticks it out, takes everything that it can use, like the nutrients and all the vitamins, and it starts to form your body. It creates cells, it creates muscles, it creates tissue. In other words, what you eat makes up who you are. So for example, if a guy is going to go eat horse meat, part of that horse becomes him. If a person eats a cow, part of that cow becomes him. So the nature of that animal, whatever it's been bestowed in it, also becomes part of that human being. Now, since everything becomes a part of you, everything that you put in your mouth becomes a part of you, we know that's why unhealthy foods, they hurt the body. It ruins a person's health. Anybody who eats unhealthy food, too much sugar, too much oil, too much fat, it's unhealthy, it ruins the body. However, there's something different for the Yehudi. Something very, very different for the Jew. When a Jew eats unkosher food, it doesn't hurt the body. It damages the neshama. When a Jew eats non-kosher food, it doesn't necessarily damage the body, but it 100% damages his soul. So understand, we are people that once we put something in our mouth, it affects two things: our body and our soul. And by the way, body, mind, and soul. Because it's very well known that what you eat eventually creates clouds, vapors that go inside the mind. And that's where come thoughts. At the end of the day, you get a lot of that. That's where dreams come from. A lot of the dreams come from the type of animal that came inside of you. What kind of life experience did that animal have? It's traveling through you. For example, we'll give an example of eating non-kosher food. As soon as you start to eat non-kosher food, what happens? The perut starts. Hashem starts to say, okay, I'm walking away from you. Now everything starts to separate. The neshama and the guf, the holiness and the body, don't have a connection anymore. One is not playing by the rules. So the perut starts. And you start to get distance from Hashem. Eating kosher food, what does it do? It brings kiruv. It brings Hashem closer to you. How is that possible? Because you're using the body to elevate the neshama. In other words, you can take this food now, and you're eating it because it's kosher. And secondly, you're doing it because it's what? I can make a bracha on it. First and last, before I eat and after I eat. And not only that, there's also a tikkun that is buried within the food, which we will touch on in a second. In other words, when we do something with our body, the body is now a tool. Just like you use a screwdriver and a hammer when you build, us as Jews, we use the body as a tool to fix the neshama. How do we do that? By performing kashrut, by sticking to the mitzvah that Hashem said you can only eat kosher food. You're already now performing a mitzvah. And the body is now serving the neshama, not controlling the neshama. You'll find many Jews that have a battle. They have their body that's controlling them, and then you have other Jews that the neshama is controlling the body. What happened? When the body is controlling a human being, the neshama is, how do we say, it's in timeout. The person is so busy with the body, he has no time to pay attention to the neshama. Later on, we can talk about what happens to people like that. But a person who has connected to his neshama, he uses the body to serve him. For example, right now, if I need this body to take me to shul, right? This body can take me also to a million different places that are completely to'eva. No, but it takes me to shul. I use the body for good. I can right now go across the street to Burger King, have an amazing burger. Or I can come over here and have hummus. I can say, you know what? I want that burger. I want it. It's delicious. But I can't have it because it's not kosher. So I'm going to come here and have a delicious kosher meal. Right away, kiruv. Hashem is saying, wow, what a decision you just made. Now we're getting closer. Because not only you're performing the mitzvah, but you're also using your body to perform the mitzvah. Now, we're talking a lot about getting close to God. I'm going to show you how important food is. If a person that doesn't keep anything in the Torah comes over to me and tells me, can you give me advice? You go to any rabbi. Okay, go to any rabbi and tell him, Rabbi, I want to become more religious. What should I do? Should I keep Shabbat? Should I study Torah? Should I start to pray every day, 3 times a day? What should I do? Rabbi, I'm ready to go. You know what's the first thing that they're going to tell you? Start to eat kosher. Before Shabbat, before Shabbat. Before learning Torah, before learning Torah. Keep kosher. That's how important kosher food is. Why? Every time a person eats non-kosher, what happens? He adds a klipa. You know what's a klipa? A barrier. Every time he eats non-kosher, another barrier, another wall comes between him and anything that's connected to Torah. Because the food is what makes you up. So when a person is trying to get closer to Hashem, you can't go and pray in the morning and then have a non-kosher slice of pizza at night. It doesn't work like that. You can't go and study Torah for 3 hours the entire week, but on Saturday night at 3 o'clock in the morning, you're eating, a slice of pizza that's non-kosher. Or whatever it is. You can't do both. Why? Because the minute you start to eat non-kosher, a block, imagine a wall comes up. The rabbis tell us that if you want to start having Torah concepts permeate you, that they come into your body and to your mind and they change you, you have to eat kosher for 30 days. After 30 days, after 1 month, you start to listen to Divrei Torah, you're like, whoa, wait, I want to do it. You start listening to you go into tefillah, all of a sudden you feel the tefillah. Why? After 30 days, they say that has 30 days of kosher has the power to take away these walls, to take away these klipot. So if you're not taking away these klipot, you're running in place. You're doing a mitzvah in the morning and you're putting in your body non-kosher at night. It's never going to work. So the rabbis tell us the first thing that you do if you want to get closer to Hashem, start to eat kosher. It's the number one thing. Rabbi Nachman Breslev says, first take care of your body, then take care of your soul. What does he mean? He means go, work out, lose weight, feel healthy. But he also says over there, first take care of your body, meaning first eat kosher. Then come to the Torah class. Then come to shul. First make sure that the vessel is ready to accept. As opposed to going to a place and saying, oh, how come the Torah is not changing me? How come this class is not changing me? How come I don't feel close to Hashem? Because you know what? You make him close in the morning, and then at night you make him go away. You're running in place. Now, in order to eat kosher, in order to internalize kosher concepts, internalize kosher concept, Divrei Torah, you have to eat kosher food. Eating non-kosher food causes a huge difficulty in growing in spirituality. If you ever feel like, oh, how come I can't become more religious? How come I don't like it? How come I'm not enjoying learning Torah? How come I can't get closer to Hashem? How come everybody around me is moving up and I'm not moving up? It has to do with kosher food. You have to be very, very careful what you're putting inside your body in order to grow spiritually. Because kosher food is soul food. Kosher food is food for the neshama, more than it is for the body. This is revolutionary. We think that we're eating like everybody else. We eat to survive. We eat to put food in our system so we can have power to continue the day. Yes, but us as Jews, we get a bonus. It also is food for the neshama. By eating kosher food, the neshama starts to feel connected because the body and the soul have a connection, and you get a bonus connection to God. That's how important kosher food is. It says in the parasha, if we continue to the 13th pasuk, this is something very interesting. It says in Perek Yud Aleph, pasuk Mem Gimel. Let's see what it says over there. Oh, this is Bereshit. This is towards the end of the parasha, on the 7th aliyah. It says, Al teshaketzu nafshotechem, bekol hasheretz hashoretz, velo titammeu bahem venitmetem bam. It says, don't eat insects, because insects are not healthy for the body. Don't become unholy in that process. Don't become impure, velo titammeu bahem. But at the end of the pasuk, there's something a very interesting secret. It says, "Venitmetem bam," but the spelling is missing an aleph. It's, in other words, "Venitmetem bam," that you won't become impure. But when you take away the aleph, it doesn't have the same meaning. This word, it means something else. So, Masechet Yoma, Gemara talks about it. He says that the avera of eating non-kosher metamtemet et libo shel adam. This word that we're talking about, venitmetem, they're taking this word out and they're telling us avera metamtemet et libo shel adam. It makes a person stupid. Non-kosher food takes his heart and metamtemet. It makes it like how do you say metumtam? It's like it makes him not be able to make a rational decision. His head is not in the right place. A person who eats non-kosher foods cannot make rational kosher Jewish decisions. He's already now working with a different set of rules. As a matter of fact, when it says metamtemet, not only does it say, in other words, it stupefies, it dumbs down a person. It's metamtem. Imagine going around life and you're not having rational thinking, and all has to do with your nutrition. Another thing, it says venitmetem. Nitmetem, they want to learn it now a different way. From the word atum. What's atum? It's closed. Satum. He says, what happens over there? Venitmetem bam. He says that it takes the person's heart and it makes it atum, closed. What happens when a person's heart is closed? Nothing goes in. Nothing goes in. All the Torah concepts that I'm saying right now are not going to go into a person's heart. Why? He's going to say right now, this is good mental gymnastics. You know, interesting, this guy, nice, food, kosher food, here, fins, scales, very interesting. But to go outside and not eat that hamburger, no way, it's delicious. Why? Because when a person eats non-kosher foods, the heart becomes closed. Torah concepts can't go inside. And by the way, this is not just for adults. We have to be very, very, very careful with children too. Very, very careful. I can't begin to tell you how many families are struggling with kashrut. What happens? What do you think, that your 2-year-old doesn't have a Jewish soul? That Jewish soul, by the way, is not a Jewish soul with a 2-year-old brain. You have to understand that the neshama that's inside of us is huge. It's huge. The fact that it's in a 2-year-old body and the body and the brain can only talk like a 2-year-old, it's a little kid's neshama is as big as a rabbi's neshama. If you take away the body that's confining it into a 2-year-old, he has a big spark just like all of us. So what happens when they're in that body? The parents, don't worry, kosher and not kosher, especially the people that are in tshuva process. You have one guy in the house eating kosher. The wife doesn't really eat kosher. Now they have the children in the middle. What do? They got to go now to Chuck E. Cheese. Do we give them the slice of pizza? We don't. They go right now to the mall. Do we give him that candy or we don't give him that candy? And not to mention, it's a 2-year-old. Wow, yelling, crying. That's it. He puts the pressure on. Who's going to buckle first? The father who wants kosher, or the mother that just wants to give the kid whatever they want? It's very, very difficult. But what happens? You give that little child, even though they're not obligated by the Torah and mitzvot until 12 or 13. But the neshama right now is eating non-kosher. Pirud. You take them to the class, they want aleph bet. It's hard. They're not open to it the same way. As opposed to a kid that everything is eating kosher. You go to class, aleph bet. Yes, aleph bet. Gimel nekudot. Give me, I want to read. I'm advanced. Oh, you see a kid over there running around. Why? Food, whatever you put inside of you, that's who you are. As a matter of fact, the Zohar says that when you eat, look at the food. Look at the food. Why? Because whatever you're looking at when you're eating, that's what makes you. So what happens? We have an epidemic. Nowadays. What is it? The iPhone. How many kids eat like this? They have a screen and they're eating. Why? So he doesn't scream. So he eats. Why? Because without the iPhone, you need 45 minutes for him to eat. With the iPhone, you can just shove his face while he's in zombie mode. He's just watching in zombie mode. Yeah, of course. ABCs, 1, 2, 3s, all educational. Of course. But the kid is in zombie mode and he's eating. What happens? Whatever he's looking at goes inside. That's why sometimes people, the whole invention of TV dinners. What's a TV dinner? You're watching a TV and you're eating. So what happens? If you're going to see now violence, all the violence goes into that food. All of a sudden, an hour later, you're angry. For no reason. You're yelling and screaming. Why? You put that anger into the food and that's part of you. You come right now, you're watching something, you're sports, this and that. All of a sudden you come and your head is like swimming. You can't concentrate. Why? The food that you put inside your mouth while you're looking at that screen, that's what inside of you. They tell us, look at the food when you're eating. I don't know one person who's not struggling with the iPhone and children when they're eating nowadays. And it starts very young. Why? It quiets them down. If you take away the phone, the mother has to work harder. She needs more patience. I understand. But it's not right. You are what you eat. So when it talks about children and they're eating non-kosher, it's a big deal. Why? Just like the adult heart is closed and nothing is penetrating, same thing for the children. So make an effort. Make an effort. If you are lucky enough to be born a Jew, do yourself a favor. And don't be your worst enemy. Don't block yourself from being successful. Especially for children. However, because you know what's interesting? I have to talk about this this topic a little bit more. God forbid, should a person be allergic to peanuts? Whoa, what did they do? What's in here? You got sesame? What kind of oil? What? 100 times they check it because the kid is allergic. What do you care? Be careful. I wish that they take the same fervor for kosher. He's Jewish. Oh, Jewish. He can't eat. And make sure, is it kosher? What type of hechsher? I wish that they would act to kosher the way that they act to allergic. It's like, for the tafel, we act so high level. We become doctors. We know every single thing. We know how to check the wrappers. Like we know already the names of the ingredients. What's allowed, what's not allowed. Asking for hechsher. Nah, we go to Chabad on Friday nights, on Kippur we go, everybody's like, that's where they become lax. Be careful with kashrut. However, on a much, much higher level, why do we eat kosher? On a much higher level. We gave the groundwork that even, everybody understands. Why? Why do we eat kosher? The reason why we eat kosher is because the Jewish people are the handyman of the world. We came here to fix the world. We came here for the tikkun of the world. And the original sin of Adam HaRishon was that he sinned with the food. Remember, Adam was a vegetarian. Nothing needed a tikkun. As a matter of fact, everything was perfect. As a matter of fact, remember when Moshe was pointing to the animals, Hashem was telling him, Zot. He didn't say. He says this. He would point. This animal's kosher. That animal's not kosher. This animal's kosher. That animal's not kosher. The question goes, why didn't Hashem say the lion is kosher or the lion is not kosher? Why didn't he say the word? They say because if Hashem says the name of the animal, that's it. The tikkun is done. And you don't need to do anything to it. Right? So over here, he pointed to it. But the whole problem of how we got into this tikkun process is because Adam HaRishon sinned with the food. And during his time, everything was perfect. After Dor HaMabul, the generation of Noach, like we said, we were given permission to eat all the foods, all the living things. Why? Why after Dor HaMabul we were given permission to eat? In order to elevate the neshamot that are in the animals. So you have to understand, there are different stages in lives. There's domem, there's tzomeach, chai, medaber. Rock, plant, animal, human being. Okay? If you were given a chance on this planet to be a human being, and you acted like an animal, and you lost your chance to come back to fix like a human being, which is a very, very low level. Hashem is all merciful. If you did something wrong as a human being, He does give you the opportunity to come back and fix as a human being. If you have to get downgraded, from human being to animal, that's a very, very low level. And imagine if you came as an animal and you got downgraded to a plant. And imagine you get downgraded even to a rock. Can you imagine a person gets downgraded to a rock? We can't even begin to imagine it. But it's a reality. It's true. It's a mitziut. However, the Dor HaMabul, all those, packet of people that were there, they sinned. They went down a level. They need to get fixed. How do you fix them? Hashem says, listen, at the end of the day, we have to fix you. We're not just going to throw you away. He downgrades them to a level of a behemah. Now, how do you take a behemah to a level of a human being? How do you do it? So, Baruch Hashem, the Jews, the handyman of the world, we have the power to do that. How do we do it? First of all, the animal has to be lucky enough to fall in the hand of a Jew. Once it's in the hand of a Jew, that it's a proper shchita, that it's kosher, that the knife is sharp, that the rabbi says the bracha. After the shchita, that a Jew in the supermarket picks it up. Right? Imagine after the kosher shchita, a goy picks it up. He has to come back again. So after the shchita, then a Jew picks him up. And then the Jew cooks him properly. And after he cooks him, what does he do? Says the bracha before and the bracha after. So you can take that spark that's inside that food and elevate it to a higher level. And that's how you make the tikkun. That's our job. The tikkun, to take everything. Like for example, right now in this food, with our human eyes we can't see it, but there's sparks. Godly sparks in this food. And right now, because He said, whatever sparks were here, you elevated them. The tikkun is done. You helped something over here fulfill its tikkun and it went to a higher level. Similarly, we do it with fish and meat. Imagine on Shabbat when you're sitting over there and you look at the fish, that's a tzaddik that made it all the way to your table so you could say a bracha on him on Shabbat. That chamin that you're eating with that meat over there, you know what a process that it took for him to come to be on your plate so you can elevate it? Imagine now if that plate is in front of you and you don't see the bracha. Oh! Reset, rewind, one more time. Look how important it is to make a bracha. The job of tikkun of the world was given to us. The job of fixing and elevating the nitzotzot, the sparks, the godly sparks that are buried in food was given to us. The Arizal knew very well how to do this tikkunim. The rabbis tell us that he would sit on a table and he would look and he would say, give me that plate, give me that piece. He knew exactly what was the tikkun, what's the right thing to say, how to eat it, what not to eat it. He would go to a table and sometimes he would sit and he wouldn't get up till every single piece was, he made a tikkun on it. The Arizal, what do we know? A great Kabbalistic rabbi from just a few hundred years ago. You know, should mention that there's times when we talk about food, like meat and animals, and the tikkun, as a Jew, it's easier for us to talk about it. But nowadays, it's in style, in moda, in fashion, to do what? To become a vegetarian. Pita. Or pita. What's pita? The people that are for the rights of animals. Vegan. That they feel bad for the animal. How can you look what happens before it becomes meat on your plate? Look how they tortured the animal. And you know what? I agree. You're right. You're right. But that's not the Jewish way. Don't forget that the whole world, the whole existence is for us, for the humans. Everything below us is to serve us. Hashem told us. What did it say in Parashat Noach? It says that it made it lachem, that you can go and I permit you to go on every single part of existence and eat it and partake it so you can survive. It's for you. So when they come to the vegetarians and for the animal activists, I understand. Because if you see the videos, you see a poor animal, the last few minutes of its life are horrific. Horrific. It's getting electrocuted, it's getting hit on the head with a hammer. Poor thing. But Tzar Baalei Chaim, us as Jews, we're not allowed to do that. Did you ever see a Jewish shechting? It's 1 second. The animal is here, the animal is gone. Even if you know a little bit about shechita, ours is the most humane. The shechita of kosher animals is absolutely incredible. If you go into the biology of animals, there are 2 blood vessels. And these 2 blood vessels are very far apart. On 99.99% of animals, one is on the bottom and one is on top. That means there's no way that you can cut over here and the animal not feeling. Hashem, with Ashgacha Pratit, with divine providence, He put the vertebral artery and the carotid artery, these 2 blood vessels, an inch apart. Any knife, the minute you go like this, gets both. Only kosher animals have it. Only kosher animals. Go do the research, go do the science. Those 2 veins are right by each other. Go do a horse, one on the bottom, one on top. Go do a pig, one on the bottom, one on top. There's no way to humanely kill those animals. Now, there's a guy that says, you know, how can you eat animals? Look at what they do. He says, you know what, if a Jewish guy that ate non-kosher, he says, you know why I don't eat kosher or even non-kosher? Because of the way that they treat the animals. He says, you know what, I understand. He says, if I was eating non-kosher meat, I also wouldn't eat that meat. He says, because think about it. What did we say? Whatever happens to the animal, right, is in its, you eat it, it becomes part of you. Imagine that the last 5 or 10 minutes or half hour of that animal is torture and pain and prodding and electric, and it's on the floor. He says, you know, the Jewish shechita, he says, your animal, the non-Jewish shechita, the animal is stressed. The animal has fear. The animal has pain. The animal is in distress. It's got all those feelings inside of it before they eat it. I feel bad for the guy that's going to eat that steak. All of that goes inside of him. It says the Jewish animal, one time it's eating the grass, a few minutes later, doesn't feel nothing. It's stress-free. A stress-free animal. I would gladly eat kosher meat over any other meat, even if I wasn't eating kosher or non-kosher meat. Just because it's a stress-free animal at the time of its shechita. It's the most humane and no pain. You know, we said that something very interesting. I'll say this in the name of my friend Natanel. He gave a beautiful chidush on this. He says, you know what you can also learn? Because you are what you eat. He says, you know what you can also learn from the animal? That when you eat a kosher animal, it gives you patience. But patience? How's that? He says, look, it has to chew its cud. What's chew its cud? It eats it, puts it away, saves it for later. When it's ready for more, it takes it out, chews it again. If it wants, it puts it away. It says, who eats like that? Most people, you see predatory animals, they jump on it, they eat, they tear it into pieces and they walk away. Our animals, you know, it's got time. It says, when you eat kosher food, it also gives you patience. Just like the animal has patience with its food. I thought that was beautiful when he brought it up. In conclusion, kosher food is healthy food for the body, mind, and soul. It adds to us elements of peaceful animals. That's what it adds to us as human beings. Kosher food is a mitzvah min Torah that helps us connect to God. Every time you eat a kosher meal, every time you say a bracha, you get closer and closer to Hashem. And you have the opportunity to do that so many times a day, at least 3 meals a day, and everything in between. Imagine, I want to get close to Hashem, get close to Hashem. Next time you put something in your mouth, raise your eyes to the Shemayim and say, Hashem, this bite's for you. This bite is for you. Because I want to get closer to you. Because I want to have my body be a kosher body. And I want to get close. There'd be a kiruv between me and you. Not a perud. That Be'ezrat Hashem, just like the Mishkan is not here to bring me closer to you, but my pita and my hummus is going to bring me closer to you. The kiruv. Eating kosher food is the tikkun of the world. The original problem, the thing that started everything, was the sin of Adam HaRishon and Chava and that tree. And every time we eat, every single person does their share of fixing that sin. And you have to understand, unless we fix the original problem, forget all the million of other problems that we've accumulated up until now. But the original one with the food, up until then, we're not going to. Mashiach is not coming. Mashiach is not coming. There's so many things we have to check until Mashiach is coming. So many things. One of them, do your part, the food. It's the easiest one, especially in South Florida. Again, the Jews have a huge responsibility in the tikkun of the world. Even the vegetarian, with the fruits and the vegetables, do your tikkun there. You don't necessarily have to eat. Again, you are what you eat. The food that you eat forms your character. Know that. Whatever you eat forms the character that you are. Try that. Go on a healthy diet. Go on a clean diet. You're going to change your attitude. You're going to change your mind, your fogginess. Even kosher food, sometimes the kosher food can be not clean, greasy, meaty, unhealthy. Eat kosher food, healthy food. It'll change your attitude, it'll change your character. Unhealthy food damages the body. Unkosher food damages the soul. Don't forget that. It's a very unique thing that's exclusive. It's exclusive to the Jew. That the food affects the neshama. Kosher food helps Torah concepts go into you. To permeate your mind, your heart. That when you hear something, you want to do it. That it's not mental gymnastics. Thank you, Rabbi, for giving my mind an exercise in the subject of Torah. That you walk out of here and you say, you know what? There's no chance I'm eating non-kosher again. There's no chance that anything non-kosher is coming in this mouth. Because I live in a day and age that if I can't find something kosher, I can eat tuna. You can peel off the can and eat the tuna. I can find a fruit. I can find dry fruit. I can find something. I'm never stuck. You're never stuck to the point that, listen, there was no food around, I have to have the hot dog. Terrible mistake. Terrible mistake. Oh, it's just potato, just this. You know, when you start to make the excuses, I only eat pasta outside. It's only a salad. Really? What about the knife in the back? What about all the hama that's in the back? What, you're not eating that? That's not part of it? Something touches it, it becomes non-kosher. You're going to start convincing yourself, I was in a place, there was no food. There's always food. There's always a vegetable section. There's always something that can hold you over. Never, never, never put yourself in a situation where you convince yourself that it was all right to eat non-kosher. Oh, it's only sushi, it's only rice and raw fish. Raw fish is okay, I found out the knife, it's cold. Don't get into those situations. Eat kosher food. Let this be a part where the concepts go into your heart and doesn't escape you. Why? Because otherwise, every single time you listen to Torah, you're wasting your time. Why? Because it's like throwing a ball on a concrete wall. You throw the ball, it comes right back at you. Throw the ball, it comes right back at you. No, it's never going to go inside. It's never going to go to the other side. It's very, very, very important that you keep kosher. Kosher food helps you get elevated in Avodat Hashem. Every Jew at some point feels he wants to go to a higher level. You don't have to go to the other end of the world to dip in some mikveh in Russia. You don't have to go all the way to Israel to kiss some rabbi's hand so he can give you a bracha. Even though that all those things are good. You want to move higher in Avodat Hashem? Eat kosher. Kosher food connects the mind, the body, and the soul for the Jew like no other person. It's the ultimate tikkun of the world when a Jew eats kosher food. There's many, many things that can be said about the section, about the animals, about the that are kosher, that are not kosher, the fish, what science has brought to negate. But I'm going to leave you with something. The Torah was given to us thousands and thousands of years ago. And it put on paper, on black and white, that what is kosher is mafris parsa ma'ale gera. And it told us which ones are allowed. 10 species. Then, before science, before Google, before divers, before technology, told us the Jews can only eat fish with fins and scale. 2019, 5,779, it still has not been proven wrong. It's an incredible feat because technology can always find something that the archaic generations before us did not discover. Nothing has been proven wrong about the kosher diet. Be'ezat Hashem, that we merit to the truth of the Torah today and every day. And that Be'ezat Hashem will be very, very strong in keeping the kashrut. Amen. And if you're already keeping kosher, keep it better. And if you know what's keeping it better, by the way? You know, lo aleinu v'lo alechem. Not every K and U and Chaf and this is kosher out there. You know, there's a lot of reform and a lot of conservative that are putting out kashrut. That means that they drive on Shabbat, that on Yom Kippur they eat, and they tell you, but by the way, this food, I give it the okay, it's kosher. You can't take a hechsher from a guy like that. So if you're already eating kosher, get to the point that you know which hechsher is the right one. And you got to get to the point that you know what's the right timing between one. Step it up. You can't always be a novice. I don't know, soon I'll be there. When I get married, when I make $1 million, when I have children, that's when I get there. Today, now, is the day to eat kosher and to get connected to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. שיטו לבכם לחילה, פסגו אמנותה, למען תספקו אחרון, ששם וברך אתכם.